This week, because our young ag professionals couldn't make the trip to DC, we're bringing DC to them, visiting with experts inside the Beltway about issues that concern young ag professionals all across the state. RJ Karney joins me now. He's Director of Congressional Relations with the American Farm Bureau Federation. RJ, how you doing?
Doing well today, Ty. I hope everyone's doing well in Ohio. We miss you in Washington, D.C. and wish we could do this in person.
Yeah, that's for sure. And I know that these young farmers and ranchers certainly wish they could be there as well, because they enjoy being inside the Beltway. They really feel like they can make a difference. They have that young and energetic attitude and really think that they're going to make a big difference. And they are for many, many years to come. And so with that comes a lot of questions and concerns about what we've seen here over the past 6 months and what they might be seeing here over the next 6 months and long term as they start their farming careers. And so these questions come from young ag professionals from all over the state, and chance for you to kind of weigh in and answer some of their thoughts and concerns. And the first question comes from Ross and Caitlin Meeker. They're in Ross County, and I'll start with a light question for you, RJ. They want to know, how big of an impact will this election have on agriculture? That's a pretty easy softball to get things started.
Well, I appreciate the softball question, and there's no better way than to jump right into the deep end. So as with every election, elections potentially bring about change, even if the administration stays the same. Well, it depends on what the makeup of Congress will be. So there will be direct implications for agriculture, and across the spectrum. Most important thing, and this really gets to the heart of having young professionals come to Washington, D.C., and that is to let your voice be heard and get out there and make sure that you do vote and you are participating in the election process. That's the key number one aspect, and moving across and stating your advocacy, stating your interest, putting your vested self and the impact of your families into this election. So there's going to be different changes. I do not have a crystal ball in elections. I think what are we, 8 weeks out from an election, from the election itself. So there's a lot that could still be in play, and whether there's the makeup of the House and the Senate, if there's a change in administration, what I can say is AFBF, Farm Bureau, I know Ohio Farm Bureau as well. This is why it's great. We make relationships across the entire spectrum, and we can work with both the Republican administration, we can work with the Democratic administration, and same with the House and Senate. It's very important to have those relationships so we can share this interest, share the stories from your members that are participating virtually today, and share those stories, whether it be in a virtual meeting that we're having or in-person meetings inside the Beltway, and add the policies and implement those policies that are needed. So at the end of the day, really what it comes down to is how it's going to make sure you are participating in the process, and also make sure that you continue to share your story, whether it be in virtual town hall meetings, whether it could also be in Farm Bureau county meetings as well. Look at the policies. Think about those, how they're going to impact your family, you're going to impact your community. I know we're going to talk about some very important topics today in regards to broadband, mental health. There's infrastructure, there's budgetary costs, there's trade. I mean, there's numerous issues we can run down the gambit of. How are we going to have viable workforce for agriculture moving forward? So all of these are critical issues. They continue to be critical issues for American Farm Bureau, and for Ohio Farm Bureau as well. So at this point, these next 8 weeks are going to be very interesting to follow and watch. And at the end of the day, come next year, we'll be ready to roll and ready to work with you and continue to work with you and be the voice of agriculture here in Washington, D.C.
You mentioned broadband. We talk with these young ag professionals. That's very important to them. I mean, they're trying to start a business and run a business, and sometimes they're out in the country where rural broadband just either isn't that strong or not there at all. And so this next question comes from a couple, Kristen and Justin Dickey. They're in Henry County, and they want to talk about the importance of broadband, whether it be for homeschooling or running a business or even telehealth. That's been highlighted due to COVID-19. Where are we on getting broadband to rural America, and has the pandemic spurred the issue a bit?
So one thing that has happened, and I really saw this happen probably back in 2016, 2017, there was a wave of momentum that built up with regards to rural broadband. And across the board, and meaning within the administration, within the halls of Congress, here at Farm Bureau itself, broadband itself went from number 6 on the list of 5 to inside the top priority list. It's no longer number 11 on a list of 10, number 6 on a list of 5. It is a priority issue. It continues to be a priority issue for AFBF. Right now, there's more than 19 million rural Americans that do not have access to broadband across rural America. That's according to the Federal Communications Commissions, and they're using antiquated maps to even come up with that number. So we know that number is even significantly higher than that total itself. And something that it's very nice to see especially in an election year, broadband has bipartisan support. There is great momentum to solve this issue. There's not going to be a silver bullet. I wish I could tell you, yes, we have the solution. We know how it's going to get done overnight. It's going to be a work in progress and will be a work in progress. But what did occur this past year was or earlier this year, I should say, the House and Senate passed, it's called the Broadband Data Act, and this was signed into law by the president. This act is going to get more accurate mapping from the Federal Communications Commission that's no longer going to rely on census blocks. And unfortunately, what has happened, and this has been one of the fault lines for rural broadband and the expansion of it, was if you had a entity and an internet service provider is the one who filled out these forms, if they filled out their form, what's called Form 477, and said, I provide broadband internet to a hospital in one county, and no other service, no other entity in that entire county has broadband, that, according to the FCC, that county is now 100% covered. So that's just eye-opening. And what we knew it was more granular, transparent maps and a lot more accurate. So this bill that passed, the Broadband Data Act, is going to get more into the weeds. What we're working on now is getting funding so the FCC can implement the changes that are necessary to get more accurate maps. This is a long-term project. It'll take about 18 to 24 months to get fully underway, but the FCC is still moving forward with some other initiatives that'll be a lot more short-term and provide financial infrastructure necessary for rural deployment to more remote areas that do not have connections. So this is a priority for AFBF. We're working on a lot of different fronts. And as you highlighted in the question, COVID has instrumentally changed the landscape as well. We're getting a lot more attention based on schools, on telemedicine, with regards to connections at the farmland and at the dairies. It doesn't have to be at your traditional anchor institutions. And Congress, the administration, I know even if there is a change in administration, again, this cuts across the spectrum of the political spectrum. Republicans, Democrats support expansion of rural broadband, and we will sustain that momentum into next year, regardless of the election. I'm very confident in that, and we will keep the pressure on Congress to fund the programs needed so all Americans in rural America do have connections, just like they have electricity and telephone service as well.
Another issue that's being moved to the forefront, and rightfully so, is mental health. I think we're breaking through that stigma little by little, and I think the fact that we're asking this question to you today proves that we're trying to meet this issue head on and get the answers and get the help that farmers across the country need. Hannah Jarvis lives in Columbiana County. She wants to know how Farm Bureau gauges our country's mental health crisis and what new resources are being created that would truly work for someone in our industry.
Great. So this is another area that is just became as of last year, another priority issue for AFBF. And I'm going to start off outside of the policy realm. I'm actually going to talk about a program that AFBF began. And this was in conjunction or in partnership with National Farmers Union and also with the Farm Credit Council. We partnered with Michigan State University Extension and Illinois University Extension and developed a program that would offer training services for Farm Bureau staff for farmers and ranchers, for Farm Bureau members to go through and recognize the signs of stress, understand removing that stigma which you mentioned. Also, how to have a conversation. The idea is not to become a mental health professional. And anyone interested in looking at this training, it's a free training. It has now expanded beyond just Farm Bureau members, National Farmers Union members, and Farm Credit members. It is free to anyone. And you can go on the FB website, fb.org/farmer stress, I believe it is. And you can find that training, a link to it. It's about 4.5 hours to take. You can save it. You don't have to do all 3 segments in one sitting. But it just allows you to have a better understanding. If you meet someone, see what the signs are, provide some assistance and ask them some questions. Again, we're really trying to focus on, no one is, if you break your arm, you have a physical ailment, no one's going to think twice about you going to a hospital, having your pickup truck parked outside a hospital to get your arm fixed. No one has any concerns with that. However, if your pickup truck is parked outside of a counselor's service, well, there's still the stigma that with mental health, because you can't see it, it's not this physical thing, it's going on in someone's head, that it's they shouldn't. They're going to be talking around town that, oh, we saw so and so's pickup truck outside, I wonder what's going on. That is greatly being removed. And I give great credit to AFBF President Zippy Duvall for talking about his issues that he dealt with mental health earlier this year, with the passing of his wife, Miss Bonnie Duvall, earlier this year, and the struggles he had. He's been opening up a lot more and really highlighting this and talking with staff and telling us on the policy end too, we need to work on getting more funding to areas and to programs that help farmers and ranchers with farmer stress and mental health. And that's something we have worked on. And with regards to the Rural Resilience Act Reseeding Rural Resilience, that's it. This was an act that was passed in both the House and the Senate as an amendment to the National Defense Authorization Act. And it has a three-tier process. One, it's going to continue a training at USDA for outward-facing agencies, so FSA, RMA, and provide a training for them that they can have a very similar training that was put forward that the Farm Bureau training has as well. Additionally, there's going to be some funding in there for a marketing program, a public service announcement with Health and Human Services. And finally, there's going to be a process in there for a local best business practice. A lot of this is going to come down to what's commodities are specific in your community, what's happening specifically within your rural community itself that can alleviate some of the stress. Bring organizations like Farm Bureau or Farmers Union, other agricultural groups, other rural groups as well with economic development, and partner them with mental health professionals. So there's a lot underway, and it is with the amount of resiliency that farmers and ranchers do have, it is okay to say you're not okay. And that's the key message to get across at this point. It's okay to say you're not okay. There's a lot of stress going on for everyone. And when you factor in the trade wars, you factor in COVID-19, you factor in natural disasters, the everyday life of a farmer and rancher can be highly stressful. And it's okay to say you're not okay. It's just a message we are continually trying to get across. And I highly recommend folks visit AFBF's website for mental health and stress relief.
Just the fact that those 3 organizations alone teamed up for this shows the importance of the issue, but it also shows the support that farmers have, and they need to realize if they're going through something like this, they're not alone. There's a lot of support out there for them, and they are worth so much more than their farm. And so very important that we get those messages out there. And I think that, like you said, we're breaking through those barriers and reaching more and more people that are having those issues on the farm. RJ Karney, Director of Congressional Relations with American Farm Bureau Federation. Really appreciate you taking time to visit with our young ag professionals this week on Our Ohio Weekly. Appreciate your time.
Thanks, Ty. I look forward to seeing everyone here in DC again soon.